Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Happy Me Career Coaching Initiatives, episode 10. Today, we're going to talk about a topic very interesting, stepping up into your role. We have come a long way in these initiatives, and I want to thank everyone for listening. Each episode just gets better and more defined and succinct in types of coaching topics we can cover to uncover ourselves in one way or another. And just like stepping up into this role of being a global mission driver, of course, I will want to see success where everybody know what is this coaching mindset about. And success looks to me is to make everyone aware of why coaching and how it impacts and make difference to our lives in one point or another. One way or another, with strong mission, I believe, Happy Me Career Coaching Initiative is to spread the awareness of coaching, bring about an evolved change to the masses mindset and advocate the use of coaching into our daily lifestyle to help ourselves to engage our own willingness and motivation as they develop, as we develop our career and personal growth. Now, tonight we have with us Lynette Har, an executive and life coach. Lynette, she empowers corporate executives to achieve a fulfilled and integrated work-life balance so that they can be an effective and credible leader in their career. As a coach, facilitator, mentor, she combines the 15 years of corporate experience with the art and science of coaching to help bring out the best to those in need. I am always amazed by her energy whenever I meet this awesome, bubbly lady during our coaching session. I will advocate this very much because I know how coaching can benefit people, especially when we constantly want to achieve success. And success is subjective depending on individuals' perspectives. Now, I'm going to cut short of what I'm going to say. I'm going to let Lynette do the talking. Lynette, I think you are best person to share with us. What do you do and what is this success look like to you, Lynette?
Wow, maybe you give me a very tall hat.
Thank you for being with us.
You're
Yeah,
most
now
welcome. Thank you for having me on your show. I think I'm still evolving, as I think with everyone. I think like when we say in coaching, right? It's a co-creation process as I'm co-creating my life process as well. From where I am now. Yeah.
great. So now, for yourself, Lynette, share with us a little bit more of what do you do and, what is this success looks like to you for yourself, your own career?
Okay, so for myself, I'm a mom to three kids. So I call myself a mompreneur. And I'm a ICF certified life coach and executive coach on my way to my PCC journey. And on top of that, I do facilitation and I'm a mentor, also a community leader with the Women of Courage Asia. And okay, because I have three kids, right? So I'm also sitting in three different parent support group committees as an office bearer slash exco member, depending on which school you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's me lah in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, a little technical glitch.
No worries.
Yeah, so, based on your experiences and observations, Lynette, what do you think are these roles that many people play and stress about, especially yourself as a mom of three kids, mompreneur? Share with us what do you think are these roles?
Okay, I think a little bit of history, like what you said, right? I left corporate, that was my previous life of 15 years, and I left for family reasons. So this role that I choose now as a mompreneur, right, it's kind of off choice because I wanted to spend that quality time with my family. At the same time, also I wanted to try and see how I could help and really help those in need. And when I say help them, those in need, because I realized that poverty actually sometimes is not only not caused only by circumstances, but also in the mindset, and which is very befitting about your comment here, right? Stepping up into the role, right? Because I think a lot of us myself included. We sometimes have self-doubt. We also sometimes have our own limiting beliefs, and what we call imposter syndrome, right? Really cannot, or hey, how so it's really a combination of all those factors, right? And through the coaching process, it's when we coach and when we are being coached, along this journey, that it's been this journey of self-discovery as well, which is why I find this coaching journey so empowering, and also so humbling, because the more you know, the more I find I know, the more actually I realize I don't really quite know, so it's been a journey of discovery, and that's really exciting.
Mm. So when you were saying, self-discovery and a journey that, what we know and what we don't know, it's
Mm.
very interesting that you've brought about this, this concept of what we know and what we don't know.
Mhm.
So in this case, today when we are talking about stepping up into our role, and often enough coaching, when we explore what is this, what usually this stepping up means. So when
Mm.
you say what we really know and what we really don't know, what is this stepping up means then?
I think stepping up for me means a few things. For example, when I first found out that I was going to be a mom, for example, stepping up into that role, I don't think you can quite prepare for parenthood. There's no encyclopedia that you can fall back into, right? Or there's no success formula in that sense, because every child is different, every environment is different. How do you then put your best foot forward, given the circumstances, to bring about the best for the other? So that's the stepping up into that beginning of the journey. But also, as I transition through careers, I remember my first role, where I was kind of headhunted to be in the headhunting industry. I was totally new, right? Fresh out of school, don't know what to do. So I was made a research associate then. But slowly, I was given some executive roles in the C-suite, and having to interview, having to, speak properly, having fresh graduated from school, right? It's finding out what is right, what is not along that journey, but really being authentic at the same time, and being humble in saying that, uh, what you are there for, and then being open to what then comes out from that process. that's been that for me is actually stepping up into the role. Then I give you the example also of when I was transitioning from doing client services to then running the office. It was also a lot of stepping up into the role, because then the office where I was in, we grew from a office space of, I think, two of us then, to five, and then 10, and then 15 and 20. And the last when I visited, we are like nearly 30 in Singapore office. So when I left, we were 20 plus, and I left as the head of client services then, and it was a global portfolio, because a lot of the oil and gas majors were my clients, or in that sense, my babies, right? Because I have been with the company for so long, and they are very comfortable with who I am. But at the same time, because you carry that portfolio with you, I call myself kind of like a brand ambassador in that sense, because you want to make sure you portray your best foot forward for the company that has given you that trust, and that space for you to grow. So I think a lot of time it was stepping up into my own expectations also of what I needed to do well, that I needed to perform, and but at the same time be in a collaborative space with my management, my senior management, my founder, to align what are best practices and what are the expectations. And a lot of times, I think it's in me that I would just sometimes take things and run with it, because my founder was traveling around, and so basically sometimes when you've got deadlines, you can't quite call and or ask permission in that sense. So I was given the autonomy to do a lot of things, and I think because of that also, and because of that trust, I blossomed in that environment. So it's really just taking what is given to you by the horn and just running by it. If I can sum up, of what's stepping up into the role. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. You have actually bring out the essence of this stepping up means when you were talking about expectations, the safe environment to grow. Now, let's talk a little bit about expectations because many a times we actually burden ourselves with all this stress and all these roles and responsibility we are talking about, right? So when we talk about stepping up, many people feels very stressful about it. And you touch on a very sensitive or very crucial topics about managing expectations. So now when we talk about managing expectation, is that the intrinsic factor that we're talking about when it comes to stepping up into the role or any individual wanting to step up, looking at this, like managing both sides. My boss is having so much expectations of me, and I also want to, prove myself.
Yeah,
So,
Mavis, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Because a lot of times we have our own expectations as well of how we perceive things.
yep.
And oftentimes then we are also our own worst critic in that sense, right? Like both of us, we are on this journey of with the International Coaching Federation. So many a times, sometimes when you start doing the practices, you're kind of like, am I asking the right questions? Why am I asking this kind of questions? Or, oh no, I should have done this or that at the end of a session. But when you listen or when you speak to the client, 9 times out of 10, or I would even say 9.5 in that sense, out of 10, your clients actually come back to you and say they were absolutely happy and bowled over, if not anything, with the session. And you have actually performed beyond that. But here we are then internally having this self-dialogue inside and saying, oh no, I should have done this and that, or and etc. But when really the client that is on the receiving end is saying, you've done a fantastic job, give yourself a pat on the shoulder. So sometimes then I tend to sit back and reflect and ponder, are we giving ourselves a lot of undue stress? Or on the other end of the spectrum is, have I done my best? And if I have done my best, and if the client who is on the receiving end have said or come back to you and say, congratulations, thank you so much for the session, then why are you still questioning yourself of your capability? So it's been a learning process actually also for me. I'm not sure if I managed to answer your question.
Yes, of course. We touch on about when I talk about expectations of ourselves, and it's many a times is that we put so much pressure on ourselves that we forget to compliment ourselves.
Yes.
Right. Now, living in this VUCA world now, right, everything seems to be unpredictable, especially now COVID has hit us and businesses, every of us individually, we are experiencing the uncertainty. So most of the time we explore with coaches, right? And we talk about what does it take to climb? Is it a how that we are looking into the climbing these steps of success, or is it the why and the what? So what do you think? What are your thoughts about it, Lynette?
Is it the how? Is it the why? Or is it the what?
Yes.
You see, I think the thing that I learned, right, is along this journey, and it's just my sharing from my past experience of where I am right now, is how do you, with coaching, we always start with the what, what do you want to do? And then it becomes, how do you want to do it? But when we talk about the NLP perspective, because I'm also an NLP practitioner, it's really then, who do you want to be? So then it's a different perspective. And then it's a different angle of stepping into that role. Because I want to be a great coach, and I want to be an awesome coach that people would be like, oh, have you actually talked to Lynette for that coaching session? I think that's the dream, right? And so as along this journey of credentialing, or on this journey of being a good or better coach every single day, it's really telling myself that, okay, I am a good coach, and I am a great coach. And but in this journey also, being open and looking at how will I equip myself so that I can have that impactful conversation with my client, so that the impact and the takeaway is maximized for each session that the client has with me. And that's actually been the journey of, um, who do I want to be? You know, what do I want to be known for? And in this journey, how can I make it such that I become of that role? So it's really a little bit of the reverse, right? Because I think normally is, oh, what do you want to be? And then people start working towards that. But in the NLP sphere, we think about directly, who do you want to be? And then after that, work towards that.
So then how will, in coaching, right, what do we want actually to achieve in this climbing these steps of success to help our clients, our coaches to climb these steps of success then, through coaching?
Mm, so if you ask me, through coaching, how can we help our clients be successful? I think for me, it's really, as coaches, we're kind of like the mirror. If I can use the analogy, right? We
Yes.
reflect what the client is saying. And by reflecting, I don't mean paraphrasing. What you say, I just paraphrase and tell you, like, no, it's actually beyond that. How do you actually maximize, listen to what the client is saying actually and beyond, and share that back with the client? Because often, right, we don't know unless you record yourself every day in all your conversations, right? Otherwise, then how do you know what you're saying? And it actually then takes a coach to reflect that. A trained coach, actually, I should emphasize, a trained coach to then reflect with you, and more importantly, co-create that process with you, so that you meet the outcome of what you want to be at the end of the coaching sessions, with the client, with the coach as well. So that it's then forming up that coaching agreement, right? What's your end coaching agreement? What's the goal that you want to accomplish? And then working with a coach to then walk that journey together, because the coach will then hold you accountable to ensure that to work with you, to work towards that goal, so that you can step into that role, and also perhaps even throw you challenges along the way, and expand your mind, stretch your mind beyond what you may think. And that's actually one of the reasons why I enjoy coaching, because when you stretch a client's mind or awareness, they're like, oh yeah, huh? How come I didn't think of that before? Then you're like, okay, that's why you're engaging me. So then it pushes them out of their comfort zone. But then only when you're out of your comfort zone, then do you grow, right? And then do you then learn as well? So it's then really being just open and continuously putting your best foot forward. Yeah.
Right, you hit the nail actually, Lynette, yourself. And I really love our beliefs together, our values and principles that coaching is a co-creation partnership process with both the coachee and the coach itself, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
then with this co-creation that we are looking at, what kind of coaching mindsets are we in prepared for ourselves? I mean, for us, coach, we know it's a co-creation. But what is the coaching mindset that the coaches should have when it comes into the coaching session with us? That when we are stepping into the role.
I think the first thing is, when you go into a coaching conversation, we're not going to give you answers, because then you go for a consultant or you may be looking for a mentor, somebody to
Yes.
guide you. A coach actually, depending on what or why you engage a coach, would actually um, open up your horizons of what's available, um, And from there, it's up to you then to choose which road you want to take. And the coach would then tease, open up the options, share with you or reflect to you what you have thought or may not have thought before. So, to answer the question of what kind of mindset you need to have when you enter a conversation with a coach, just be open. You know, just be very open and have a conversation, because that's really what just coaching is about. It's just a conversation. And the only way to experience coaching is actually through a coaching conversation. That's the best way to experience coaching then.
Right. So now, Lynette, for yourself, and I really do agree that all of us, even the coaches themselves, must really have an open mind so that we can open the horizon up for them. So let's come back. When we say we are stepping into the role, why are we saying into? What is into means? Let's
If
deep
not,
dive a little bit.
if it's not into, then where else?
Well, it can be stepping onto the role, it can be stepping for the role, stepping up for the role, stepping onto the role. Yeah, so what into?
Maybe if I use the analogy of stepping into your shoes, right? Because we often sometimes use the analogy of, okay, the shoes are too big for me to fit, right? So for me, it's stepping into the role, because with every role there comes um, your own expectation of what the role encompasses, but also if you're in an organization, there is a certain job description that you need to fulfill and that you need to meet. And even if you may be new to it, or maybe if you're a new hire, or you've been promoted internally, there will be a job description that's stated. So for me, it's actually stepping into it, because when you start stepping into it and you open up your horizons, um, and remain open to the feedback, the comments, the suggestions, the advice that will come from it, of course, from the right sources, then I think the sky is the limit, right? You can actually then go beyond what you thought was possible. It's just that I remember when we started on this journey, or when I started on this journey of coaching, I was like, huh? How to achieve 500 coaching hours? Uh, and I was challenged, right, by our mentor, Coach Jedi. I was like, maybe you want to do it within a year, or maybe you can finish it. You can reach your PCC journey, which is the professional coaching credential, uh, by December or in 2 years, depending. And I was like, it's not gonna happen, not gonna happen. And I was like looking, and I was doing the math, and I was like, that's not gonna happen. But look at me now, and that's one thing that the pandemic has done as well for me personally. I'm not sure about you, Mavis, because during the pandemic, everybody is locked home, and because of that, clients has no more geographical boundaries. You could coach with anyone who is willing to be coached. You can actually connect with anybody, so long as that mindset is there and they want to be coached and they are open to receiving coaching, and most importantly, they want to see change in themselves. And that's really the beauty of that process, because now I've clocked that time. Which is like, oh, okay, I updated my log. I'm like, there, I'm there, I'm there. So yeah, but of course, PCC is not only about coaching that time; it's actually how you evolve as a coach, right?
Right. Yes, and evolving and everything. So now, thank you for sharing that into concept. And I want to string back everything again so that we can bring together both of us to deep dive into the next question. Okay. So earlier we mentioned about, what is stepping up role means. It's about having expectations, getting and managing expectations of both sides. And most importantly, is within ourselves. And we talk about, how coaching mindsets is about to open your mind so that the coaching sessions or coaching conversations can help you to open up the horizons in your mind. And we can think of more ideas on what to do and how to do, right? And when we talk about, and you shared about, very intrinsic, like, is it a how? Is it a why? Is it the what? But you bring up, it is probably the who that we are looking at, the who that comes back to us, right? So now let us drink back into all these notions. Are we hearing, and when, okay, the last previous question that we talked about, why is it into, and it touched on the willingness of the individual self. So let us actually come into a deeper dive, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Are we hearing some relation to ownership, to
Definitely.
self-ownership?
Yeah.
So then now is self-ownership the intrinsic factor to step up into the role we hold, or what else are we talking about to overcome these steps when we are stepping into the role?
I think you've hit the nail on the head again, Mavis, because if a role is given to you, okay, even if it's challenged or suggested to you, if you do not take that ownership or if you do not take up that role, okay, how do you even step into that role? Right? Because if you don't take ownership and say, okay, I will do this and I want to make it the best of what I can, then there's no stepping into because it's still hanging in the air. And as far as I'm concerned, it just means that you're not interested. Sorry if I can be very blunt. It just means that you're not interested. And if you're really interested, then your character, your attitude, and the way you show up for the role will speak volumes to both not only yourself when you reflect back, but also to the people around, right? Most importantly is when you go through that and you take ownership and be responsible or are responsible for your and answer to your own self, then no matter what others say, right? So long as you're true to yourself and you are aware of what you've said, then no one else can say anything else because you know you've done your best. And then there's no second doubts about it, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
Yes, right. That's the part of ownership. You have to take up that ownership, right? Of,
Yeah.
Having to show up into stepping up the role. Now, I've noticed this constant struggle or constant concerns is when you say that you have to be interested to take up that ownership. But many a times people is very interested, and yet, when they want to take up this ownership, they come with, do you think they come with fear?
It's fear slash limiting belief slash self doubt slash a lot of things. Right. Because I think we're only humans, right? Especially if you've been promoted within, or if you're taking on a new job, for example, or you're stepping into a new career. We're only human, and that actually, having butterflies in your stomach will only push you forward. And I learned that, how do you organize those butterflies so that they fly in a single alignment towards where you're going to? It's what matters because you are only human. And to feel nervous would actually push you to excel in your role. And that has for me, because as I can share with you, right now I'm facilitating a whole different industry that I'm not familiar with. But with the project management and the process management experience that I've gathered from before and the facilitation skills that I've picked up and learned, as part of ACTA and also within coaching, that facilitation skill of eliciting the response, it's amazing. And that's how I've survived, if I can say, this week so far, because it's been exciting. And when I look back, I was like, wow, I never quite expect myself to be training or facilitating in this industry. But the feedback and the takeaway at the end of every day has been positive, and if not, has been really encouraging. So it just goes to tell me myself, which I also like to share with the audience, is so long as you put your 100% or 101% into it. That's why you were asking me why I got eye bags, right? I've been doing my own research, right? I must walk the talk as well, right? Because I may have that process or project management experience, but in that specific field itself, it's something very new. And of course, I have people around me that I can ask. And then that's the other thing, right? Be open and be humble to ask for help or for support and know where to ask, right? And also at the same time, taking that ownership to go and do your own research. I cannot every time ask people and disturb, right? I would feel bad. So I do my own research as well so that I can actually then benefit my learners to the best of my abilities. And that's probably also my own expectations of myself to step into the role.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how you put it across on, is it fear that we are overcoming? And fear is always there, right? Be it like it or not, it's always a constant thing,
Yes.
right? That we are trying to overcome when we climb these steps. So now is that, are we hearing, more than just about overcoming and when we are stepping into the role, right? Yeah, so are we hearing more than just overcoming? Are we hearing more than just, ownership? Is there something that one can achieve from coaching sessions on how, we are able to find that part of us to discover our whole self when we are talking about overcoming and when we are talking about, stepping up into the role?
I think, Mavis, you are a coach, and when you ask that question, right, I can see your there. I can see the aha, that sharing that you are saying, which comes from your experience as a seasoned coach yourself, because it's very much. Sometimes people ask, are you an executive coach? Are you a work coach? Are you a life coach? But when we boil it down to the core, it's really that inner self inside, right? That is who you are. Is there a difference? It's just a different hat that you carry or that you wear at that moment, at that point. You're a mom as well. You carry multiple roles, but who is the core, right? And who is that person that's within is what the coach actually helps to reveal to the person, the client itself. And then help you to realize that greatness, what we coaches call that greatness within, because we help uncover that, because it's there. But because of, like we said, the VUCA environment that we're in, society's expectations, our own expectations of self, it's often buried. Like you need just part away all the mist and the uncover everything, right? And then you'll find who you really are. And that's what a coaching conversation does. Because if that's what you want to find out, and if you are open and truthful in that conversation with the coach, that's what you would end up finding. And a lot of times, sometimes I have clients who are like break down, and I'm like, okay, take a minute. It's okay. Take the space that you need, because sometimes they find out things that it's like, I never thought that this piece of my history actually still affects me to today, or that this particular event still is what's hindering me from moving forward. Because that's what a coach does, right? A coach actually helps bring you forward as well. That's why we're saying that it's stepping into the role, into the future. We're not talking about historical events anymore. That's past, right? But our past helps build us, because like what Steve Jobs says, only when you look back, you connect the dots, do the present then make sense. And that's really quite true then.
Yeah, I think I love your last sentence, connect the dots, right? So as we connect, and we talk about what is that intrinsic values that we are looking at, we connect the dots of the how, what, who, why, who, right? Before. Now, I
Yeah.
want to maybe we spare a little bit more time to deep dive. I think we have more time to deep dive even further. Many a times people talk about, having to go into a different section. Remember, we always talk about the why. Go back to your fundamentals of why you're doing it, why you're doing it. And now we are talking about the who of ourselves. And you bring up that many a times a lot of clients actually didn't know that a part of their selves in the history is actually slowly eating them or bring them to where they are and making them, stuck in a situation.
Mm.
So now let us string back the why and the who. Do you think which is important? The why or the who?
What is the why and what is the who? Is there a difference?
Well, if you put it that way, the why is your fundamental belief, and the who is the fundamental self of yourself, right? And when we are in the self discovery, then we are talking about who are we, and then when we go back to looking at why we are doing this, but we always goes back to why am I doing this? At the
Mm.
end of the day, we keep on doing, working what we thought that what we believe is the why.
Mm.
But why is there a like a blur disconnection
Yeah, there's a
between
disconnection. Yeah.
the why and the who? Which one values most importantly then? What do you think, Lynette?
It's a bit like asking me if I can say my left hand and my right hand, which one is more important for me, right?
Precisely.
Is there? That's why I asked. Is there a difference? Because you're still connected. Like in between is like both your hands. Right? You can't do without either one, right? Who is? Who are you, and why are you doing it? Right? Like for example, when I left corporate and I was thinking of it's only been maybe about a year and a half now that I decided that I wanted to enter back the workforce and transition back. I had a choice. Do I want to continue being, that tai, or do I want to come back out into the society and try and put my skills to best use? And why do I want to do it? You know, and that's when, because I have used myself. My eldest is 16, right? I I remember the ad stroke actually shocked me quite a bit. There was this please stay movement that was on social media, TV, and everything. It's about the extreme of youth at risk. The extremity of it was then committing suicide, and parents coming forward to share um, the journey. Right, I'll just put it as the journey. So I then reached out to the organizations to see how I can contribute. But at the same time, I found myself really lacking in the skills because I want to help, but I don't know how to help, and I don't want to give money. That much I'm very sure, because I think money would or finances would only help that intermediate. But what goes beyond that? Like what we say, right? Who is actually inside? If I can empower, if I can help the person break their own limiting beliefs or empower the person with the necessary skill sets, teach the person how to fish rather than give the person the fish itself, I am actually helping the person move forward. And at the same time, empowering the individual and those around. And then that's when I discovered coaching. So why do I want to do it? It's because I have, I can I say I have this, I'm on a mission to try and help. Uh, but I would emphasize I only want to help those that want to help themselves. Because if they don't want to help themselves, then you know, unless you want to help yourself, if unless it's a bit like, when we talk about stepping into the role, right? You take accountability, you take responsibility for it, and then you start looking for help. But if I will not help somebody who wants help but don't want to help themselves. Then I'm going to be banging my head against the wall. If I know we're live, but it's going to be really literally that. Because who can help you if you don't want to help yourself? I think
Yeah,
it comes, yeah. I think it just comes back to that, right? Who can help you if you do not want to give yourself that opportunity to be helped or to be guided or to learn in that sense. There's no point in you sitting there and complaining and saying, oh, the world is unfair or this and that, when you are sitting there and not doing anything to help yourself. Yeah. There are so many resources out there. It just takes research. It just takes you stepping forward to help yourself. Perhaps engage a coach, or perhaps do your own research and find out how can you develop yourself so that you gain that self-awareness. And then, only when you take that small step for yourself, you will be amazed at the recovery, or should I say the journey, as you reflect back on where you are, which is actually quite amazing. Okay, I thought a lot already. Your turn.
No, it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's so rich, that sharing of yours, where it's only us that decide whether we want that help, and it's only us that we can engage our own self, and nobody can affect us, right? Totally, really agree. And you know what? Johnny, our dear friend Johnny.
Oh, hi, Johnny.
Hi, Johnny. Johnny actually asked long ago, right? He was asking, how do you know that the impact you have on the client?
How do you know about the impact on the client? Actually, that's the thing about coaching, right? Because at the end of the session, when you ask the client, so how was the session? That's instant gratification in that sense, because the client will tell you whether they like it, they don't like it, and what did they learn and what they did not get at the end of the session. And that aha moment, that light on their face, like a light bulb going thing, it literally just comes on and cannot fake. It's so real. And that's, for me as a coach, that's great. That's reward. That's gratification. And that encourages me to move forward then as well. Of course, must sustain myself, but the instant gratification of what comes on at the end of a coaching conversation, that aha moment the client gets, and then most importantly, staying accountable with your client so that the client actually handhold the client towards that end goal that they want to work towards. It's actually what's gratifying and empowering, actually, for me personally as a coach.
Yes, really. And really true is that we handhold those coaches, clients of ours, right? And the aha moment that you have, several times mentioned in the conversations, of the gratification of them having the aha moment. And James, our dear friend James, also is totally agreeing. Yeah, he mentioned that he totally agree. If the person does not have the commitment to make a difference by taking action, then they are not ready to be coached.
Yes,
right?
I agree, James. I agree. Yeah.
And it's personally for me, when I coach someone and I really sees that commitment that she has, and I all go all out, and she accountable with me. So it's a Vietnamese lady that I've been coaching, and there's a sharing of safe environment that we have and we build because we co-create that culture, that partnership with them, right? Now, then in that case, for that moment when someone is able to coach, and how we make them realize the relation between the why, the who, and then bring forward the how and the what. So let us go a little bit more, Lynette. Then how do we actually continuously progress with the client, with the coachee, I mean?
I think the fundamental question first is, what does the client want to achieve, right? Which is what forms the coaching agreement, right? Then from there, you then also decide on the number of sessions, and from there, then you work on so-called your KPIs with the client, right? And decide and agree on the process forward. Because, like they say, it takes 21 days to form a habit. And if it's a new habit that you want to form, I use the analogy of losing weight, which is very commonly that we use. You know, you want to lose weight, you want to lose weight, you want to lose weight, but you sit there and you don't do anything. But what's actually the core, you know? So the coach actually would then help hold you accountable. And perhaps different coaches I know, if they're a fitness coach especially, they will actually go to the gym with you and make sure you actually go through what you said you would do. And of course, if they are a fitness coach, they will then hold you accountable and they will put you in a safe environment as well by watching out for, you know, things that you can do and things that you can't do so that your body is able to manage that process, which is kind of like what we do. Because as life coach or as executive coaches, we will push you to where you are comfortable because ultimately the goals are being set by the client, right? It's not set by us. Because I can say the sky, but if it does not come out from the client, then that meaning is lost. And then you realize that the next session, nothing is done because it's what the coach says. It's not what the client wants, which is actually the crux of the matter here. Yeah, so coaching is all about the client. It's not about the coach. Bringing out the best in the client. Yeah.
Right. So now, when you talk about, having to go into the comfort zone of the client, and it's all about the client, and when we talk about progressions from where they want to be, how coaching is co-creating that partnership to bring from where they are now to where they want to be, right? Are we sensing that can we also make them uncomfortable in the sense that to push them forward?
Of course. I say of course, right? Because who will not be comfortable or who will be comfortable doing something that they're not used to be doing? Right. I think we are only humans and it's only normal to feel uncomfortable being pushed out of your comfort zone. But only when you're out of comfort zone is there growth. So it's a choice, right, that you can make. Do you want to stay where you are or do you want to move forward? Do you want to take responsibility for your life or do you just want to be who you are? If you are happy who you are, then be who you are. But if you want to be something more or you you can do it but are feeling stuck, then just go look for a coach. If I can say that, because I've coached so many people and they are like, I have a client who sat on the project for many years and through 3 conversations, the product is already launched. It's like, God, Lynette, I should have met you earlier. But I think it's really timing because of the pandemic as well. A lot of people then have time to reflect and think about what's closest to them, what's most important for them, because that's only then that they have that internal drive to move, to push themselves beyond what they thought was possible. And then that's also what the coach does, right? And then if you're not happy or if you're not comfortable with that push, you can always say you're not comfortable, then you do what you are comfortable with. But are you justifying or are you giving credit to yourself afterwards, right? For pushing yourself beyond that boundary or allowing yourself that challenge? If you fall short, that's fine. Because you know what? You would already have moved from that 0 mark because it's already a step forward. And that's what really counts, right? Because that step forward or that step into that role that you envision yourself to be in is what really counts. Because if you don't continue, if you don't move yourself forward, then when do you start or how do you even start, right?
Yes, definitely. And I do agree that sometimes you've got to actually push yourself forward. If not, then when, right? And James Campbell, our dear friend, was asking, Lynette, who are your favorite clients and why?
Wow, James.
Such a
Hey.
tricky question.
Yeah, very tricky question, James. Can you simplify your question, please? Who are my favorite clients? Clients who want to make a commitment, who are ready to make a commitment for themselves. Genderless. If that's where your question is alluding to, it's genderless, but really it's the attribute, it's the character of the client. Because as a coach, right, you can really see through a conversation how much commitment that individual has to make that improvement for themselves. And if I can use that same example, that client was very committed because he was out of job. There were no alternatives. And we were supposed to meet only in 2 weeks. But within a week, he finished his prototype. I was like, oh my God. And he sent me the video and I was like so proud and so amazed by the progress. Just when someone is actually committed, responsible, taking that ownership and being accountable to what he said he would do. Stepping into that role that he said he wanted to do, right? If I can be a bit cliche here.
Right. That's really the commitment, right, that we always want from our coaches themselves, because without their commitment, we can't do anything, right? It's about having the ownership without you get interested and without you taking up that ownership, that there's no coaching to conversations that we're going into, because we're going to be round the circle.
Yes.
Right.
And you'll be going around that mulberry bush for as long as you want. And there will be no outcome if you don't want to commit to it. Yeah.
Right. And is it always true that, during our coaching conversations, when we want to talk about stepping up into the role, is there a real outcome at the end of the day that, that we have devised ourselves? Because if we come with an initial question in the initial conversation at the beginning, do we normally think that that is the real cause?
I think as a coach, right? When I first started out on the journey, where we were taught about that one patented trademark, but we were always taught to reflect and always taught to find out who the person is, and to go deep into the values and the belief systems. Because when you find out what's the value and the belief system, that's when change happens. And that's when transformation happens. So is the first question always the problem? No. And you would discover along that journey. And that question may be a question. But it then takes a trained coach, a skilled coach, to then work with the client and throw back to the client. I'm hearing this. Is this what you like to talk about? If it's not, then we can continue on that topic, and the client has that choice of which direction the client wants to move. Because where we shared, right? Coaching is a co-creation process. It's the coach will guide, but if that's not something that you're thinking of, you always have a choice not to take that path. And then it's then up to the coach to co-create that process with you.
Right. This is what we have learned during our coaching, and how a skilled and trained coaches like us, we know when and how to discern that moment that actually when a client comes to us with a problem, at the end of the day, the desired outcomes is something to work a deeper into our self-discovery process, right?
Very much.
Well, that's very good. At the end of the day, I'm hearing so much from you, Lynette, on, these steps. Why step up? What is this step up looks like? How these step ups, take about? And most importantly, we deep dive into the why and the who. Wow.
We covered quite a bit of ground, yeah.
I didn't know we can go into the who and the why and how we can discern that. Yeah. And it's really about how these skilled, trained, coaches like us, we are able to bring forth that desired outcomes, no matter what, how we have deep dive with the client along with the conversations, right? And it really boils down to one very intrinsic motivations in ourselves to step up, which is the commitment, the accountability that we want to account to ourselves. Many a time we say we have only ourselves to account, but what is it really, that accountability, right? That we are looking up. When you have that commitment, then you can do the stepping up into the role.
So true.
Right. So usually, like I always say in my talks, it's the open-mindedness, the readiness, the willingness to be coached and to take charge of what we want to step up, what are we looking at in stepping up, right? It's most importantly is managing our own self expectations. So many a times I do agree with you in our conversations, and you brought up a very good point. We have been too critical about ourselves many a times that we forget to compliment
Yes.
for the efforts we've done, for the
Correct.
accountability and commitment that we've done. Right.
Yeah, we
Great.
forget to give ourselves a pat on the shoulder and say, "Hey, good job, not bad, not bad."
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lynette.
Hey, you're
And
most welcome.
yeah, and really precisely this global mission that I'm driving. I think I am very thankful with everyone here, with yourself, with fellow coaches and peers and professionals, HR professionals, everybody that is looking up into this global mission is to drive coaching awareness, educate the coaching mindset in Asia, because we've known that coaching has been around for very long, but it's always only on the elite realm. Okay, I think we are coming to the end, and I really, really thank you, Lynette, for accepting my
Hey,
invitation to talk
no,
tonight.
thank you very much for inviting me into your show. I enjoyed myself, and I was like, "Wow, Mavis actually practicing her coaching questions here as well." If I continue.
Right. I wish I record this and then I can send it to my ACC
Oh yeah,
application.
yeah.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I hope everyone today's sessions will bring about a lot of insights of what is coaching and how coaching with this particular topic about stepping up into your role, how we brought about coaching techniques and questionings on how skilled trained coaches helps you to bring from where you are to where you want to be. I hope it sparks in your learning, everyone. Reflection moving forward. Once again, thank you, Lynette, for being here. Now, we discover the steps to success here, right? So stay tuned to next week, episode number 11. We go into engage to disengage with Mel Liao, the catalyst coach.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm so excited. Yes, he's wonderful. Yeah, I heard of some of his podcasts. Amazing.
Really amazing. We're going to deep dive into topics like it's so interesting, the topic engage to disengage. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine that conversation is going to be. Thank you everyone for taking time this evening. Take care everyone. Stay safe. Good night. Bye.
Stay safe, stay healthy. See you. Bye.
Thanks James. Thanks Johnny.
Oh, thank you, James and
Coming.
Johnny.
Oh, thanks Hazel. Thank you
Oh,
Hazel.
Hazel's here also. All right, great.
Great, great. Thank you everyone. Bye bye. Good night.